Well, good evening. My name is Dr. My name is Dr. Christine Ranck, and I am the host of the Get Ignited talk show on yakit.com. And as you see, right next to me is a very beautiful lady that we are going to talk to this evening. But before we do that, I wanted to say that I wanted to thank Yakit, first of all, for this incredible technology and the use of it. The idea that we can be anywhere in the world. Therese happens to be in LA at this moment, and anybody can come from anywhere in the world, come on this show and be seen and talk to us live. And we kind of take that kind of technology for granted, but it's truly remarkable, and I feel very privileged to have access to it. So thank you to Yakit, and I hope that all of you will consider coming and watching all of their fabulous shows. There are lots of them running, and all different kinds of topics. So I'm a trauma therapist in New York City, and I'm also co-author of the book Ignite the Genius Within. And as a one-time author, I am very fascinated by the writing process and by other authors. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce my guest tonight, because she too is a new novelist. And I'm gonna read her bio so that I don't leave anything out. But please join me in welcoming Therese. She is the author of an incredible book, which I've read, which I enjoyed thoroughly. I can't recommend it highly enough. India's Summer. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. And so it's a very entertaining, funny, and very moving book. And of course, soon to be best-selling book, and a great summer read for all of you. So India's Summer. So this is Therese, and it's her first novel, and I understand that possibly she's already at work on her second, which I just am marveling at if it's true. So I'm dying to hear about that. Here are some of the things that we know about Therese. She was once a drama teacher. She is, as she wrote, best friends with many people who are award-winning journalists and New York Times best-selling writers. She lives in LA in a house, but she lives in Paris in her imagination. She and her husband, in full costume dress, renewed their wedding vows at the Elvis Chapel in Las Vegas. And when asked who she could see reading her book, maybe who she would most like to have read her book, it would have been Elvis Presley. But she said, but I would get him to put it down very fast so that we could get on with the other stuff. So I'm assuming that that's more important stuff. Yeah. So it's my great privilege to introduce Therese, this very funny, intelligent, creative, and absolutely remarkable woman. So hello, Therese, and how are you?
I'm great, Christine. Thank you for the opportunity of coming on board. This is my very first Yakit. I'm very excited. LA is steaming hot this evening. I don't know what it's like in New York, but as you say, it's wonderful to be able to have this technology and see you and share and be able to just communicate in this way. It's really quite amazing. So I'm delighted. Thank you.
So I'm dying for you to tell people, if you would, a little bit about India's Summer. First of all, if you feel comfortable, giving a little bit of a synopsis of the story. And I have the book here. You'll see that it shows up backwards because of the way the camera is. But it's a very distinctive, and I think one of the most beautiful book covers I've ever seen. If you can tell, it's a woman's legs and feet, footsteps on the beach. And it's very, very memorable and absolutely perfect for the book. So India's Summer. Anyway, go ahead.
What was the question, Christine? You waxed so lyrical there for a minute that I completely lost track of it. I was just agreeing with you. I mean, it is a beautiful cover. I am absolutely happy to say that. I didn't design it. I'm just so thrilled. It was the first cover that came to me from the artist, the designer, and I was Barbara Aronica. I mean, I was just blown away by it. I didn't have to look through any others. I didn't have to change it in any way. It just spoke volumes. It captured a young woman walking along the sand towards the ocean, and I felt it expressed everything inside the book, that you wanted to open the book and really think, where's she going? What's the journey? Where is she?
That is a great beginning introduction to the book. If you would feel comfortable saying a little bit about what happens in the book, as much as you want.
Well, I'll say as much as I can without spoiling the story. Basically, India Butler is just about to turn 40, and she's a teacher in London, an English and drama teacher. And she loves teaching. She's passionate about teaching. She's a very talented teacher, but she feels stuck. She's been in the same school since she qualified at 21, and she has a twin sister who lives in LA, who went to all the right schools for drama. She went off to be a drama teacher, and her sister went off and became a very successful actress, first of all in London and in England, and then afterwards in LA. So she's coming out to stay with her sister, but as I say, she's got this big birthday looming. She's about to turn 40. And when she hits LA, beautiful LA, she's overwhelmed by how glamorous it all seems, and these perfect lives everybody's living, and the opulence and the wealth, because of course she's part of Beverly Hills, part of Malibu, part of the whole scene with her sister. And then very rapidly things happen where she actually discovers that pretty much everybody's the same underneath, that we all struggle with the same issues. We're all worrying about our careers, we're all worrying about our children, or if we haven't got children, we're worrying about our relationships, or our health, or our friends, and that actually these people are very real and genuine. So she gets caught up in a lot of drama and has an epiphany herself about what she's to do, and I think the rest is pretty much in the story. I'd spoil it if I tell you any more, I think.
Yeah, it's a great story, and it's a surprising story. A lot of things happen in it that really were surprising to me, and I love your fantastic descriptions of LA life and the kind of the rich and fabulous. And I'm just curious. Well, first of all, where and how did you get the idea for the plot? Because I mean that doesn't come out of nowhere. I remember when I was a kid, I always wanted to write a book, a novel, but that's not what happened. I couldn't write a novel if you paid me. It seems like so hard. So anyway, yeah.
I actually wrote a book, which wasn't a novel. It was called The Wry Observations of a Woman. What is it called? How to Stay Upwardly Mobile When You're Spinning Out of Control. And it was really my observations of the difference between life in England, in the countryside, and LA in the west side, Beverly Hills. And the contrast could not have been more profound or extreme. And so I kept writing these little cameos, and so what I ended up with was 73,000 words of cameos, basically. And I didn't know what to do with it. And then it occurred to me that if somebody lived this life, took some of what I had done, moved from London, and actually experienced it, what might happen to them? What experiences could happen in the space of a summer? And then I think at that point, I was swimming one day and I got the beginnings of an outline of an idea. And then I wrote that down and it grew from there.
So first of all, what brought you here? I mean, obviously you're from London. how did you get here in the first place? I mean, that's kind of a big transition also, and obviously you're writing about some of that in your own book.
We came here one summer with our two kids on a 4-week stay with my husband, had a contract out here, and I just basically fell in love. I fell in love with the lifestyle, with the warmth of the people, and most of all, I fell in love with Malibu. We don't live in Malibu, but we don't live too far from it, actually. And I had my own epiphany. I think this is also something that works into the idea of India having an epiphany when she's in LA. I was walking along the beach, and I just knew I belonged here. It was almost like a spiritual connection. Not almost like, it was a spiritual connection. I knew that I belonged in LA, and I couldn't understand why we weren't living here, because I could see myself living here. And we went back to England. I had not a breakdown, but I walked the beach and I cried, and I had a primal. I went into the ocean and broke my heart at the idea of leaving and not knowing why I wasn't born here or living here, why I was meant to be here. And we moved back to England, and I came to terms with the fact that it was impossible. And then out of the blue, 4 months later, there was a phone call offering my husband a contract and offering to basically make it all possible for us. And within, I think, 4 months of that phone call, we had sold our house in England, bought a house here, moved our kids to school here, and it was as if somebody just parted the waves and said, here it is, come live with me, come be here. It was that straightforward.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize that. That's amazing. So obviously you're very much at home here. This is home more than anything else. Well, I'm in New York, but you're in LA, home for you. And I know you come to New York quite a bit, which is so great. And so when you were writing the story, like how did you put it together? Did you know how to put it together? I know you wrote these kind of characters in the previous book, but then to actually put it together with a plot, and I mean, it's just so beautifully constructed. How did you know how to do it, or how did you do it?
Well, the book that you read is the result of 2 years of work. So what I did initially was I had the story in my head. I wasn't sure if part of it was going to work as a construct or not, but I thought it probably would, and I thought, well, the only thing I can do really is to start to write it. So I turned up every day and started to write it, and the most miraculous thing happened. Characters took on a life of their own, and I would get up in the morning and think, oh, I can't wait to get to my desk to see what Lizzie's going to do today, or how India's going to get out of that mess, or what happened to Max. And it was almost as if they were telling me. It wasn't anymore me writing a story. It was almost, I don't want to sound ridiculous about this, but it was like channeling in that first draft. And then I showed the draft to a couple of friends who loved the story, but they could see it was a rough draft, even though it had taken me the best part of a year. So at that point, I hired an editor, and she was ruthless. She said, you've got an English pace here, you need to pick up the pace, you need to do this. And I thought, well, can't you do that? Isn't that what editors do? And it was, no, I'm telling you what I think you should do, but you're the one's got to do it. And if you don't agree with me, don't do it. So another probably 6-7 months of really intense 7 or 8 hour days. I got my eye in, carved through it, and tightened up the story. And so there were 2 very distinct processes. There was just the creative flow, and then there was the discipline of tightening up the language. And then, to say nothing of making all the phrases I'd written that don't translate to American. That was another whole issue with it. That's not going to affect a lot of people, but it's amazing. For every word in English, there's a different word in American. It's just a fact. Nations.
Like that, I'm so curious. Can you think of any off the top of your head? There probably some of them are hysterical.
I can think of dozens of them because it's pretty much everything you look at. That's a bin, but no, it's not. It's a trash can. Let me think. Now you're going to do it for me, and I'm not going to be able to think. Just name anything. Cans. We have tins of beans. We don't have cans of beans. Let me think. It's almost. Oh, of course, as you say, when you're put on the spot, you can't think. But pretty much every noun has an alternate meaning here. You would be amazed. There's a whole book written about it. I think it's called Divided by a Common Language. But yes, there's a ton of them.
So, are the characters, I mean, there are some celebrities in this book, and all of the characters, I'm just curious, are they modeled after anybody? And by the way, I'm not at all surprised that those characters, that you channeled those characters. And as an acting teacher, I'm also not surprised. I mean, that's the way. I think you probably would say that when you're acting, you're sort of channeling. It's like they take over and they tell you what to wear and they tell you what they're going to say, and you don't have a whole lot to do with it, and that's so amazing. So I'm not surprised. But anyway, are your characters, some of whom are quite amazing, are any of them modeled after anybody you know? And also, are any of them modeled, is one of them modeled after you at all? Are you in there?
Well, definitely. I think all of the characters I know in real life, but if I told you the names, I'd have to kill you. So you just have to imagine that for yourself. But the character that is most like me is actually India. It's a funny thing now. If I had my time over again, I'd call it India Butler's Summer, because India's summer sounds as though somebody's going to India for the summer. But the character is India, and she's a lot like me. She's a little off the wall. She's vulnerable, a little scatty. She's also a people watcher. She loves clothes. That's a big part of it. She loves people watching and working out, why is somebody wearing that and what would that have cost? And she's just blown away when she gets to LA because, well, I was just completely blown away because there's a thing called casual in LA. You know, you get invited to a party in LA and they say, oh, just come casual. So the first party I turned up to, is virtually in flip-flops. Not that I own a pair of flip-flops, I do not. But I turned up in a pair of very casual capri pants and flat shoes, and was greeted at the door by somebody head to toe in Gucci. And gold Gucci it was that year. Gucci shoes, Gucci gold dress, Gucci everything. And I learned that what's casual in California on the west side is not casual where I come from, which, by the way, is Liverpool, not London. We lived in London, but yeah, I'm from Liverpool.
Sorry to interrupt you. That must have been a big shock. Yeah, to show up just like that, casual. I can't even imagine. But I interrupted you. Were you going to say something else?
Well, just at that then, I felt so awful after that evening that I just wrote so much about what is casual, you know, what is casual in LA, what is casual for going to pick the kids up from school, what are the hidden social codes that we all, well, not everyone, because I've had some feedback on the book with people saying, well, I don't think like that at all, but I do. I think a lot of people wear uniforms. I mean, you can tell when someone's, you know, in a golf club, you know, they'll often have the little Ralph Lauren logo, and they'll dress in a certain way, khakis and a shirt, and it's almost like everyone's telling everyone else what club they belong to. And in LA, on the west side, there's, you know, in the mornings, going to drop my kids off from school, some people, well, they just look like they come straight out of the pages of People magazine. I mean, well, they have actually come out of the pages of People magazine, and they do come out of the pages of People magazine. So it was all there, you know, the kids were at school with celebrities' kids, and we all had to be pretty cool about it. But inside, we were like, this is surreal. We didn't plan on any of this. We're kind of part of it, and we're not part of it. It was a real culture shock, but one that was such a blast. I mean, so much fun. So much fun.
That is so fascinating, and it's so you ended up mingling with all of these celebrities sort of unexpectedly and without any. It just sort of happened that it just sort of fell in your lap. It sounds like, and I can see how that would be kind of an adjustment. And I think one of the great things about India's Summer is how your fascination with it comes through in the book, and how fascinating it is to read about it and to read India's reactions to all of this stuff that she suddenly finds herself surrounded by. Your observations and her observations are sometimes hysterically funny. I mean, I howl sometimes, and other times it's, you know, surprisingly just very, very deep observations and fascinating observations about it. So I love that part of the book especially. I'm curious, do you have? You probably want to say some more about that, and also, do you have a favorite character in the book?
As I say, I've fallen in love with all of the characters. I'm less sympathetic to some of them because some of them behave badly. Obviously, you can't write a story and have everybody just on their best behavior all the way through. So, you know, India would be my closest to me. And then Lizzie is a character who's struggling with teenage kids, and also she is married to somebody who has brought their own, who's divorced, who's got smaller children as well, and they come for the weekend. So blended families. Blended families seem to me to have a really difficult road ahead of them, because I always thought, you know, nature never really intended for us to be dealing with a 2-year-old and a 17-year-old at the same time. Because as a mother, you're nurturing and you're protecting and you're all and everything to that child. But with a teen, you're pushing them out into the world and they're pushing you away from them. So the two, having blended families, having to deal with the dramas of teens when you're dealing with your own small children. There's a character in my book who is really, really having to come to terms with that, and that's one of the main dramas in the story. And I like the way she deals with it. And the reason she deals with it like that is because I've seen other women in real life deal with that issue, because you know, men who stray and kids that they didn't ever expect in their lives that they give love to, all of those themes. So yeah, there would be that other character in there that I really relate to. Yeah.
Yeah, slow. Every once in a while it gets a little slow. Do you come from a blended family? I'm not sure if I don't think you do, but anyway, you seem to know quite a bit about it. Obviously, you've made quite some observations about it. Yeah.
Well, my own story, it's not a blended family, but it's I did have an awakening that a seemingly perfectly traditional family isn't necessarily all it seems. I was an only child, and one day when I was 18, I walked into the sitting room and my mother said, "I think you need to sit down, I just need to tell you something." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" And she said, "Well, your dad was married before." I said, "He was?" She said, "Yeah, he was married before, and he had a daughter. So you have a half-sister." And I was so excited. I can't begin to tell you. I was like, "Well, where is she? How old is she? Whatever." She's 22 years older than me, and my mother had lived with that and told my father not to tell me all those years. So probably something in there, made me realize that all families have some kind of story in them. But watching other people's are more dramatic. And to answer your question, no, I don't come from a blended family, but certainly not a boring one. Not without its challenge.
Sorry, once again, I interrupted you, but so did you meet her, and if so, how did that go, and did she know about you, even though you didn't know about her?
Yes, she knew all about me, and she'd seen me in my pram. Is that an English word or an American word? You see? We call it strollers. It's much better to get to this one when we just start using the word. She saw me in a stroller, and had a sense that she knew who this little baby was. There's a lovely end to this story, which isn't the story I've written, but it's a story I might write, which is that after my mother passed away, my father reconnected with his first wife. They got married when they were 16, so it's not surprising that they didn't last. But they got together, and my half-sister provided them with a place to live down the road from where she lived, and they lived really happily together for about 8 or 9 years. So she got her family back. She lost her dad when she was 13, and I was happy to let them have their little family because I felt I'd had my little family and I could be generous and let her get to know her father again, and she did. And and curiously, her mother passed away, my mother passed away, and they both passed away on March 1st, which I don't know that means anything, but it's a coincidence. So we share a father and we share an.
Yeah, what an amazing story. So March 1st of the same year. So they different years, but the same day, and that seems like that would make a great topic for a book. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
I think that's right. It's really funny, this interview. Christine, you're such a great interviewer. I think probably it's your profession to connect with people, and you get people talking so easily. You're a natural for this. I've been having a little bit of writer's block at the next book that I'm writing at the moment, and I'm just thinking, I've been looking for one particular link, and you've just drawn that out in me. I think that's somewhere I'm going to go with the book I'm writing. Yeah. So thank you.
I just got goosebumps. So I have no idea what that means, but it must mean something. So that's terrific, and it's exciting to hear that you're obviously writing another book. I heard rumors that might be true. So do you want to talk about that at all? Is it going to be a sequel, or is it another book altogether?
Well, India is definitely in there. Whether she remains India or morphs into another character, I'm not sure. I'm still at the very don't tell anybody, because I'm supposed to be much further on than I am, but I feel it's going more slowly because it's difficult to, I'm sure you know this from your own writing, it's difficult to be in the creative space and be writing and at the same time be promoting something that you have written and launching your so-called baby, your book into the world. It takes a different personality, so you haven't got the privilege of just being in the one space. So I think the second book in some ways comes faster because you're experienced and you know your voice and you have more confidence. In other ways it comes slower because you've got more distractions commercially.
So what has happened to your life since you gave birth to this book? And I'm sure it's been a very interesting ride. I'd love to hear about it. I have an idea of what happens, and it's not what you think.
Well, you were at the book party for sure, and there's nobody. I don't think there's. But here, like, I got my award from the Blue Man Group, the New York Literary Torch Award presented to Therese, author India Summer, for passion and excellence in women's fiction. And after that, since then, I have been to Northern Ireland, to Derry, and had the most wonderful, wonderful time at a book signing and run some Artist Way workshops. India discovers her spiritual path when she's in LA. She has to. I mean, it's where everybody comes to do that. And so I was invited to come along and share with some budding writers and to actually run a workshop, which I'm kind of giving away the story for India's Summer a little, but it really was life imitating art, because it was just magical. The energy in Derry was just quite incredible. And then I was lucky enough to go to Paris and to be writing for the next book the week after. So it's been a bit of a trip. And I had a real highlight last week in Florida, when I walked along the beach, and this visualization that I'd done years ago was that one day I'd walk along the beach and see somebody sitting, reading my book, stuck into it, and there it was, and I have a photograph of that, which I'll post on Facebook this week. But yeah, that was a wonderful feeling.
Oh my God, that must be amazing. That must be amazing. I went to a conference a couple of weeks ago in Boston, and I was very early for the conference and pulled into the parking lot, and was totally alone in the parking lot, and it was raining, and I was getting ready to go in, and I had a box of my own book in the car. I was going to take in a few copies. And a truck pulls in, like a small truck pulls in right next to me, and he rolls down the window and says, do you know where we're supposed to go? And I assumed he was going to our conference. I kind of pointed, into the building, and then I was getting out of the car and as I was talking to him, I was opening the door, and my book fell out of my hand and fell face up in the puddle of water. And so he saw not only the cover of the book, but he saw the box of books that I had on the front seat, and he goes, out of nowhere, he said, I don't suppose you're the author of that book. And I said, yes, I am. And he said, that's a great book. And I about had a heart attack, because the odds of that are very remarkable. And then he told me the story about how he had happened to have read the book. So that's the closest I can come. But it would be it would be even better to have somebody read it like you say, on the beach, that's incredible. That's just incredible. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. And of course, it's a beach book. That's how, I mean, it's not just, it's a couch book. It's a plain read. It's, it's not chick lit as such. It's women's commercial fiction. It's, you know, it's a book with depth and observations but it is a page turner but it's a beach read. Not but, and it's a beach read. So, the idea of somebody sitting on the beach just turning the pages, but that'll be long gone soon because it's all Kindle. So, you know, who knows how many people are reading our books and we don't know what the books are because it's all very private with the Kindle or the iPad or whatever.
I always forget about that, the Kindle issue. You're absolutely right, and it's so sad. And I wanted to give you an idea also. I have a friend who has many very successful books out on the market, and when she was first starting out, she gave me this idea. She said, what you do is you plant people in the subway and have them reading your book and laughing. And just let them rattle up, pay them to rattle around on the subway with your book, laughing. Her books happen to be very funny. There isn't anything funny about my book, but yours is funny. And so it's not a bad idea. I don't know. We'll have to see if we can work something like that out.
I just said in my latest blog that I'm not convinced that handing out copies of my book to complete strangers is the most effective way of getting books out, but you've got to do something with the 400 that you buy when you're first wildly excited to get published. But Amazon is the thing that I find really odd. It's you know, when you first publish a book, I'm sure you did this, Christine, because I know plenty of people who've published books and they all do it and then they stop doing it. You look at your Amazon ranking because nowadays there's no other way of seeing if your book's doing well or it's not. And 1 minute it can be a certain figure and then the next minute it can plummet and then the next minute it can go up and you have no way of knowing if it's just that you've reached your target audience. Because my target audience is women who want to really relate and laugh and enjoy and get transported away from the day-to-day into a world that they may never actually experience for themselves, but a world that they can relate to and that will make them feel good about themselves, that there are characters in my book that make them think, oh, that's me. And the number of people that I've had say, oh, India's me. That's me exactly. That's the point I'm at. I'm single. I'm turning 40. It may be a cliche, but it's a cliche because there's so many of us, you know. I feel like I'm at a turning point, they'll say. And so promotion isn't about, for me, isn't about the numbers for, I mean, it would be nice to, you know, to feel like you've got a blockbusting bestseller, but the motivation for me is, I mean, nothing gives me as much pleasure as somebody, and I get them fairly regularly now, somebody saying, oh my goodness, I just loved your book, or I'm in the middle of your book, I'm at this point where I'm really wondering what's going to happen, and then I say, yeah, and that's going to happen, and then be prepared, because, you know, there's a lovely twist in there that I'm rather proud of, that even my publicist hadn't anticipated, and she's read a lot of books.
Yeah, that's the ultimate thing about your book is that there's this great twist, and it comes out, it just pulls the rug out from under you, and that it's just great. And I wish we could say, but of course we can't because that would ruin it. So I'm curious, how has your family reacted to all of this? And I don't know, whatever you want to say about your family, I'm sure there's a lot to say about that.
Just unbridled pride in me. Absolute delight and pride. I'm sorry, there's a little fly floating around off an orchid here, it's gone. I mean, my daughter has sent me cards and has told me over and over that I'm a great role model for being a working mum, that yes, you know, I went into my own space when I was writing, but she understood that she respects it. It's something she always wants to do. My son couldn't have been more proud of me. And my husband's always just been a huge, huge support. So, and he's also written a lot of books, but none of them novels. And he says that he couldn't do it. And I think he's probably right, which makes me feel very good. But I'm surrounded by a lot of love. I have a very good, strong, wonderful family that is hugely supportive. And as my next book is Letter from Paris, and I had a birthday last week, they the number of themes of all to do with my books. My presents are all about Paris. My presents are all about writing equipment, books, notebooks, notepads. I mean, they are. My daughter tweeted about Yakut this evening. My husband did as well. He would be here, but he's just back from Vegas, so it was bad timing for him. I'm very lucky. I've got a great family.
All right, and so what is all this about Paris? This thing like you in your mind, you would in your imagination. What's up with Paris?
I've always wanted to be French. I've always wanted to be French, and I look French. There's no getting away from that. I do, and I have a French name, so I was clearly destined to be French in another lifetime. Unfortunately, I didn't pay attention enough to my French lessons to be fluent speaking, but I can get by with a lot of grunting and gesticulating and what have you. I just love everything French. If you pan around this room or my house, everything's French. I do it by default. I don't even know it's French, and now I'll find Made in France written on the back of it. I just think they have it. I think they've got it down. I think it's the most beautiful city in the world, and the most stylish, and I've been trying to be French all my life. I think learning the language better would be a better start, but yeah. I can pout. Pouting is good.
Oh, that's hysterical. Okay, let's. Are you doing a French pout at the moment?
I did, and it froze the camera. That's the effect of my pouting.
So, I want to ask you about your blog, the Therese blog. I have to say that it's one of the funniest things that I've ever read. Sometimes the things that come out of you are just really, really funny. It's once again, just like your book, it's your observations about people and events. It's hysterical. So I'm not sure. I want to encourage everybody to also to read your blog, but I'm not sure at the moment what the website is. I think it's Therese blog, right? .com. Maybe you can type it below. But how did you get going on that? And if what's the plan with the blog?
I resisted it for a long while, having a blog, because everybody seems to have a blog these days, and it seemed like another. I'm sorry, I don't know where these little mics are coming from in front of the screen, but the discipline required to do a blog is a wonderful thing for a writer, because you have to deliver it. It has to be of a certain length, and if you mentally think, oh, you've got a deadline, it reminds you that you are now, or it reminds me that I am now a writer, and I just absolutely love it. I can spend hours fine-tuning my writing, but with blogging there's a freedom. You can just see humor in a situation, and what I do comes out funny on the page. That's I struggle with the idea that I know I make people laugh in real life, I do it, but I can't do it to order. I'm not a comedian, and I'm actually not, it's not the best forum for me. But when I feel completely freed up and I have given myself permission to just be totally honest, the blogs come out funny. They just do. They come out as wry, I think, rather than funny, but they make me laugh. And I go back, I'm horribly self-indulgent about it. I go back frequently when I've written a blog and reread it and read it and reread it and crack myself up and everything, and then I'm on to the next one. But I just love it. In fact, I think I would like my next book to be an anthology of blogging, because but that might be boring for the reader, but you never know. I think there's material in the blogs that can go into a book. It's all about, if you're a writer, it's all about writing. If you're a singer, it's all about singing. You're a musician, you know what I'm talking about.
I actually love writing a blog also. I can't work on that deadline, and I only like writing about things that really inspire me, and then like you, they come out funny, and I use a lot of pictures in my blogs also, and I love it. I just love it. I would much rather write a blog when I'm inspired. I would much rather write a blog than try to write another book. And it's just very freeing, and you don't have an editor just saying you can't say that. You can't say that. Of course you can say that. So it's really great. But I have to say yours is really funny, and yes, it's laugh out loud funny occasionally, but it's a very wry sense of humor. That's exactly what it is. It could be a major motion picture. I don't know if there has been any interest in that, but it really has that kind of a story to it. So I don't know. Movie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm talking to some people. Yes, as we say in Hollywood. It's yes. It was a work in progress. Yeah. I need an.
Oh my God! I was sort of joking, but I mean not really. But wow, that's fantastic. And maybe you want to say more about that. But also, I wanted to ask you if there's a particular theme or some message that you really want people to come away with from the book without spoiling, what goes on. But I have a feeling that there's a through line that's very important to you that comes through loud and clear.
Very much a feeling of give yourself enough time to really, really listen to what you should be doing with your life, and then take a leap of faith. The metaphor throughout my book is a firewalk. The book starts off with a firewalk, with India doing a firewalk, and really the theme that runs through the book is how we conquer fear. Everybody's scared. What do we do to fight through our fears and change our lives? Because there's a reason somebody's turning 40 and they're wondering what to do and what they should do, and it's those issues. So I like the idea that at the end of reading the book, somebody will feel inspired to think that they can change their life. Even though this is a work of fiction, it reflects what people do in their lives. They change their lives. I changed my life hugely. People change their lives through taking leaps of faith, and I think that that's what India does in the book, and what I'd like to feel that other people would feel inspired to do. Yeah. And I still need an E after my.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. I am going to write other books with different pen names, because Therese is just somehow very difficult for people if they're not French. Of course, I am French, so I'll be big in France one day.
Well, just the accents aigus, they call it, and the accents grave, there was two little things over it. I kept being very frustrated and disappointed that my computer would not reproduce the name the way it should be, the French name. So and you definitely don't want to do anything to frustrate anybody. So, so if you have to, so I would see, come up with something totally different. That would be very interesting. How did you come up with that name? I mean, I know that is that your middle name?
It's my name. Yeah, it's my name, Marie-Therese. The actual name is much more complicated. It's Marie with a hyphen, and then Therese with a grab and an acute. You can get your computer to do it really easily. It's just symbols, I think. But I live in a town where people are called Reese Witherspoon and Drew Barrymore and Madonna, Lindsay Lohan. I mean, nobody's got an ordinary name here. Goldie is not a normal name. I don't know. It's one of those things. I can't think of a female actress in America who's actually got an ordinary name. So I didn't anticipate a problem with Therese, but I think Americans maybe don't like hidden H's. Maybe. I don't know.
Sorry, I think that's a good theory. It's hard. They want to say Therese, or they want to say Therese, or especially with those accents. If they don't know French, they just don't know what to do with it. But of course, if you've taken French at all, or if you are French, then it's not a problem. and how wonderful also to be like a one name. Like how many people like Goldie, like Cher, and then there's Therese. It's pretty great to be to have one name.
Well, there's J-Lo, Madonna, Bono, God. Let me think who else. JC. I mean, it's cool, but I'm going to stick with it because it's my actual name. So I'm only joking about changing it. I got the inspiration to use the second half of it because I was a huge fan of Colette, who is a great literary figure in France. If you've not read any Colette stories, you've probably seen Cherie or Gigi. They've all been made into movies. She died in the 1920s, but her stuff is wonderfully contemporary, and she inspired me a lot. So I'll be the new Colette.
Okay, so we're just about, it's about time for us to wrap this up. And so I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to say, and I certainly have a few things that I would like to say, but I'm gonna turn it over to you for just a second if you want to add any last thing, or if there's anything that you really want to tell people that I haven't asked you about. This would be the time to do it. And so there you go.
Oh, I think you've done a wonderful job of drawing me out. And there's a 3-hour time difference between us as well. I'm just very grateful. Thank you for this opportunity to use the new technology and to get a message out there. I just hope people enjoy my book. And I just wish you a lot of success and love with your program. I think you're doing a great job. And just thank you. Thank you.
Well, I have a great time with this Yakut thing. I mean, if you had ever told me I'd be doing this, I would not have believed you. And I'm just kind of going along with it, just to see what happens. There's something totally new to do. And like you, I'm in favor of trying new things and just taking leaps of faith. So I want to thank you, Therese, for coming on tonight. And I want to encourage everybody to read this marvelous book. You will have the best time. It's really, really a great book. And also read her blog. It's hysterical, and you will so enjoy hearing about this lady's observations on life. She's an amazing writer and a very brilliant and creative person. I happen to know her a little bit, and I'm just so impressed. So thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you to Yacket one more time for providing this forum for us to introduce all kinds of different people and all kinds of different topics. And so please come back to this Get Ignited show. It's every Wednesday night, and thank you for everything. So go out and get excited and get ignited. And I hope to see you soon. Bye. Bye. Thank you.